And we're back, Blacklights podcast, where we're here to drop gems and light the path forward. I'm extremely excited for our guest that we have, extremely honored to be in her presence. We have fashion industry leader, award-winning creative director, costume designer, and entrepreneur who has spent her entirety of her 25 plus years career telling stories, with her most recent storytelling celebrating female empowerment with her collection with Puma. In the house, please welcome me with June Ambrose to the Blacklights podcast. Hello.
Hi, how
June,
are you?
what's up? What's up? You good?
I'm good. I feel good. I'm in Detroit. You know, you guys got me out here, and I'm in love.
I feel like we need to start with that. How did Detroit treat you so far?
So far, so good.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm in a proper room,
Yes.
proper bed,
Okay.
and I had a good vegan meal yesterday.
Oh.
I don't ask for much.
Okay.
Fresh food, farm to table, good energy. The vibe is nice. Yeah, there's a guy at my hotel. He's so accommodating.
Mm-hmm.
He opened my jar of gel this morning. I was having some problems.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. Oh wow.
It's like he'll do anything.
Detroit
Like,
is
can I take
awesome.
you home? Like, he's like,
No, Detroit.
Yeah.
Detroit will do that for you. You
Yeah.
know, hospitality
Yeah, it just-
is
it's a vibe.
and it's changed so much over the years. Like I feel
Yeah.
like right now is a real special time in Detroit.
Last time I was here was when we were on the run too. So, and it was like, you know, in and out. When
Right.
you're on the road, it was not enough time to really feel.
To see what's going on.
But every time I land here, it was interesting because it was right around the time that Aretha Franklin had passed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And,
okay.
Oh,
so it was
yeah.
a really special time, and you could feel the energy, you know,
In the city.
in the
In the
city.
city.
Yeah.
Like she owned
sure.
it. Like, you know, her spirit was here. And I remember I was listening to her music like all week. It was odd because I was listening to her music all week, and then we had gotten the word that she passed. And oddly, I was listening to her. I was like dancing on a suitcase in my hotel room.
Wow.
And that video is online, and I fell
Wow.
off the suitcase. And I got back up and kept moving.
Wow.
That's the story of my life, though. I've made many stumbles in my life, but I always get back up. So
I think that's a perfect segue. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
it sure is, because, you know, I mean, one of the things that we like to highlight here is understanding your journey. You know, everyone knows June Ambrose as of today. I mean, you're mega. But when I say is take us back to day one, and through that journey for us, so that we can know the beginnings of June Ambrose.
yeah, well, it is a journey, and next year will be 30 years.
Wow.
That I've been incorporated, 1994. I mean, I started in theater and the arts. I was a drama major, musical theater minor, and also an elective was costume design.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went into corporate America. I worked in an investment banking firm, gained some financial literacy, and then
Right.
was like, I'm no corporate girl. I'm an entrepreneur.
Right.
Reconnected with some friends. Most of my friends that I went to school with were all in the arts, whether they were in theater or film or working in the music business as, you know, musicians, or on the other side of the music business, A&Ring or whatever, marketing. So I reconnected with one of my high school friends and took an internship at a record company at Uptown MCA, the
Okay.
late Andre Harrell's record label, and P. Diddy, Sean
I was going to say
Combs,
Andre
Tommy
Harrell
Lee.
is a big name.
Yeah. He was just moving into his A&R position, and I was very short-lived internship at the record company. But enough for me to understand that there was an opportunity there in terms of, and it's interesting that we're in Detroit, we're in Michigan, like, you know, the idea of Motown and artist development,
things, right.
that was the foundation of what they were building, what Andre's vision was, what even Puffy's vision was to really develop artists like they did back in the day. So I was, you know, coming from understanding costume designing, theater, and building characters, it was the perfect place to kind of, you know, see the white space, see the opportunity, and figure out where I was going to go from there. So the first opportunity I got to work with one of the artists wasn't at the record label, but it was someone that was coming through, and carpe diem, I seized that moment.
Yeah.
Got
And
it.
I always tell people you have to recognize, you know, opportunities when they're in front of you. Don't be distracted with what everyone else is doing,
Yeah.
everyone else's journey. And the fact that I was so focused on how can I contribute to what they were trying to build here. And it was okay that it wasn't with them,
Right.
but I was able to, you know, go outside of, you know, that house and find my way.
Yeah.
So-
And step in the gap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, where's the opportunity, and fill it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think one of the things, June, that I always appreciate about you is your energy. right?
Energy.
Like every time I see her, she always has the same energy, consistent, right?
Very consistent.
And what I think about you, I'm always like, how does she keep that energy consistent? And how do you keep pushing the needle? Because you continue to do more great things every time I see you.
Yeah.
But where's the battery in your back? Like, how do you keep that charged?
Yeah, life is a slow death, so you reckon sometimes life is fleeting, and it's such a privilege to be able to live it. So I always promised myself as a young girl, like, be, infinitely curious and be enthusiastic about life. And, I was raised in a single parent home. So, when you see, like, my mom worked so hard, and never complained. She was relentless. She was so, like, nurturing in every way. And I grew up feeling like I was quite wealthy because of the way the way we were surrounded with love and safety and opportunity to creatively grow. And she didn't overproduce me. Like, she would look at me where I put, things together and clothes together. And I was always a very, precocious and creative young child. And she didn't feel the need to say don't, in West Indian households.
Don't do that.
Speak when you're spoken to. But my mother would always say, that's just June. And I was always coming into the room like, I'm going to Hollywood. And like, I was never like, I never wanted to disappear. Every room that I walked into, my family just always embraced the fact that I was just June.
Yeah.
Right.
And it worked for me. Like, no one asked me to change. And, life can change you.
Yeah.
Easily.
And when you're blessed with, a family that just accepts you for like who you are and it's enough, you recognize that and you hold on to that. So I am always tapping in to my young self. And I think I'm just going to always be this way because I love the sense memory of a childish joy, not having the responsibility, that creative freedom, not having to ask for permission. That's a beautiful sense memory.
It is.
And that's how I keep the joy.
And I'm happy that it's like the foundation is family.
Yeah.
Yes.
The flip side to that's personal. So the professional side is a black woman who keeps blazing the path.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of young women who are listening to this being like, how does she do it? Like when you run up against, we all work in corporate America. There's a lot of white people that are in our way at times because they don't understand our culture.
Right.
Like when you get hit with that, how do you continue to just keep pushing?
Yeah, well, I don't allow people to weaponize my blackness, and I don't use it as a disadvantage. The resilientness of people of color is so great, and I really lean into that. Like I stand on the shoulders of so many who have made sacrifices for the opportunity for me to be in a room. And if you're not going to give me a seat at the table, I'm going to build my own.
Absolutely.
It's always been with one door closes, you open. If it's not happening, it's not happening to you. It's happening for you.
For you, absolutely.
So I always keep certain key buzzwords in the back of my head. And when the climate isn't right, I adjust it. I could turn up the heat real quick. And I don't waver and I don't compromise.
Right.
It's like, I believe culture is something that you create. They've made this, thing into culture where it's like, oh, it's black, it's white, it's not. It's what you create. And then you bring like-minded people along with you. And then it becomes something that starts to like infectiously, spread.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's an experience. And when you live in that experience, and a lot of like corporate heads are like, oh, we want to be part of culture. Well, what culture?
What exactly
what
are you
is it that
speaking?
you,
What is that?
yeah, what
Yeah,
are you
what's your
speaking about?
definition?
It's like urban.
Yeah.
Urban was, went from being a neighborhood and an environment to black.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everyone's always like creating these titles.
Right.
And I hate titles. They haunt me. So especially as someone who's like a CEO of their own life,
Right.
I don't let people put me in boxes and create these titles because I think those are designed to, to trap you and to suppress you, to pay you to stay in check or to, it's just, I just don't.
I agree with that
like the idea
1,000%.
of it.
It makes you only have one lane all the time.
It's like, oh, I'm going to tell you what you are. No, you don't get to tell me what I am.
Yeah.
I didn't give you permission to do that.
Yeah, that's
So
real.
you have to be very like assertive and aggressive, very full of yourself in that way that I have a great sense of humility, but there's an assertiveness that there's a reverence that you have to have and hold especially when you're coming up in a very male-dominant industry. Like,
Yes.
it was not many women around.
Yeah.
I was always the one girl in the boys' club.
And the
Definitely.
climate
Rock
was
was in the
com-
building. I was the one little pebble.
Yeah.
But, I knew that I was going to be a boulder one day. So I just, navigated my way and stay out of harm's way until I could get to the top of the mountain.
And that time was very different too. It's not what it is
different.
now.
No,
Right. It's crazy.
crazy.
But
But I had vision, though. I saw through.
Yeah. You seen
Yeah.
how
And
to
you've
navigate.
paved the way where you've created space for like-minded individuals and women especially. I did want to ask you though, because even when you said you're a pebble and you saw the vision to be a boulder, were there any specific challenges that came your way that you had to overcome specifically?
I think, initially when I started in the business, you would think that because of the relationship that high fashion has now with music and pop culture, that this was something that was inherent, that it was like from inception.
Mm-hmm.
This is falsehood. This was never the case. And we had to write our own ticket. We had to open our own ateliers. We had to tell our own stories. We had to create our own, opportunities visually for what we saw, whatever was written on paper, or whether it was a song or a treatment or, the character itself that you were developing. High fashion wasn't interested in Black culture initially. They only got on board after when the consumer became so big and when it crossed over,
Right.
specifically too, when it became crossover, when it became hip hop culture. And popular culture is really how, it afforded, them to want to become vultures and galvanize the
Yeah,
opportunity.
Of course.
And we
of
all
course.
felt, some people feel like, oh my goodness, it's such a privilege to sit front row. It's such a privilege to wear these couture pieces from these high fashion houses. But like, it should have been, that same privilege was given to you from a Black designer.
Right.
And I want us to celebrate our young Black designers. You have Ruth Carter's in the house. There's Edith Head. There's women. The woman. There are designers of color that have been around for years. So I want us to have the same kind of like that. The same way we like feel so privileged to partner with them. We should have the same. We should feel that same privilege. To work with each other.
And I feel we got to do that as a community, though.
Yes.
Like it's a rewiring of our
As
brain.
a culture.
Right? It's like, but it's rewiring because like the system sometimes will tell you it's designed perfectly.
Yeah. And the challenge was, how do you get crossover, television, which at the time was VH1, MTV. We needed them to play the videos in order for us to have the exposure, for us to go global. We needed that MTV run. We needed to be more than BET. And that was the challenge, was to create polarizing enough images, to create things that were on the level of creating like influence and, feeling like it was high enough for us to sit in the same space
Right.
as, high fashion design houses and stuff. And when we did it, and when it crossed over, then the access became, the conversation was really different. But I felt like we had an advantage because we didn't ask for permission. We wrote our own ticket. So then when we went in, it was like, okay, how do we work together?
So in those situations, was there ever a situation that happened where they asked you to maybe dumb down, or, where you weren't able to be your authentic self? Or would that not even be an option for you?
I'm a lot. I know that I'm like a 5'2" little thing in big packages kind of energy. Like, and I could either be your cup of tea or not be your cup of tea. It could be, but like other people's opinion of me, that's not the same opinion I have of myself, don't really matter.
Right.
Yeah.
So I try to like turn a deaf ear to you not fully understanding. I could be sympathetic to you,
Right.
not understanding. And there is compromise in everything. But the compromise comes there's a certain level of compromise. When it starts to mess with the integrity of your work and who you are,
Yeah.
then we have to draw a line.
Right.
But there is compromise naturally, and I've compromised over the years, but not to the point where it changes
Who you
what
are.
my intentions are.
For sure.
Okay.
And my intentions have always been pure. They've always been from a giving, loving, wanting us all to win place, from a vision of seeing the future, from knowing that if we make this move, that it will change the narrative, it will change the trajectory, because I knew that in my spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to, and that spirit is like the ancestors saying, like, like, it's okay to be brazen, it's okay to break through, it's okay to be different.
Yeah.
Right.
I was always comfortable with being different. I was never designed to fit in. It never fit with my narrative from a young child. I was always looking for opportunity and ways of being seen and heard. And I lean into that because it is a superpower. And I encourage, the next generation coming up, my own kids, it's okay. Like, you're enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
No matter if someone in the room doesn't get it,
Yeah.
it's
I
okay.
say that.
If
It's
the room
okay.
is cold, you have enough heat
Yeah, you're good.
built inside of you to warm it up.
Yeah, there's a quote where it says your value does not decrease because someone doesn't understand your worth. And
Beautifully said. Point
Yeah.
taken.
definitely.
So you just said something about access, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now that now as you want to call it access, what would you love to do with it to help the next generation that comes after you?
I think, each one teach one, I've always created a space for, for the voices, the unheard voices, I was, the LGBTQ community. I was one of the first to bring those individuals into the world of hip hop. The ballroom scene, I felt, was a scene where it was as theatrical as what a music video could look like. And I was like, let's take this art form and put it to use. There's so many young, stylists will tell you, like, gay men working with hip hop straight artists. Whenever I'm asked a question or I can give 5 minutes of my time, I give it. I've always had a community of people around me. And there was levels to it. There was entry level, and I've always treated everyone like they were CEOs.
Right.
Yeah.
No matter what level you came in, it wasn't just to fetch my coffee, but I was teaching you along the way,
Yeah.
helping you to understand the financial literacy, the gains, and understanding, like, creatively, no one is going to take your creativity away from you. And I'm not here to tell you that you're not going to make it or you can make it or you have talent. That's not my job.
Yeah.
My job is to show you the path to success or the opportunity that exists in front of you, and how do you utilize the tools and how do you have longevity. So I'm always, lending that information. I'm always giving them a space to discover
figure
an
it out.
opportunity.
Right.
And it's really up to you. There's no one that could say, I can't take credit for anyone's success. I always tell an individual, I can lead you to the water, but I can't make you drink. So it's like, I can show you this, I can crack the door, you can slide in. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to bring to the table? I can't help you past that.
Yeah, after that, that's
You
on
gotta do the work.
Yeah, it's on you.
No one helped me.
No.
I didn't intern. I didn't work at a retail store. I have my master's in experience in trial and tribulation and
Yeah.
trial and error.
Right, trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and it was like when I left the corporate space, I said I was going to start my own business. What does that look like? What does that entail? What does that involve?
So I'm sure when you were making some of those decisions, though, and I'm really curious to know, is there anything that happened within your career that you would have wished happened differently?
No,
Really?
Interesting.
I have no regrets.
That's awesome.
I really don't. I mean, I put it all out there. I gave it my all. I asked for a shot. I built my careers on the backs of beautiful Black people who gave me a shot, who gave me an opportunity.
Yeah.
I owe that to them. I owe it to the artists that trusted me, who was willing to creatively partner with me, who was willing to render themselves to me when they had to, when they needed the space, for the grace, I owe it to them. I am so humbled by the experience that I wouldn't change anything. there was times, you get into financial things. Everyone has, when you own your own business.
Yeah, it's making you
good.
learning too.
You learn.
You learn.
Yeah.
There's I don't care what university, what master's degree you have. You're building a business, you're building a business. You're going to have hard times. It's just the nature of the way it goes.
That piece of paper ain't going to save you.
No.
Not at all.
But it's what you do with the conflicts and how you resolve that, and how you, when you rise from the ashes like a falcon, is the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
And I feel like even just your story, everything has kind of worked together for good, like even just having your financial literacy background, I'm sure supported you and taken you to heights that you could never imagine. I know you were a visionary. Did you ever imagine reaching the height that you are now?
Yes. And I'm at ground zero. I feel like I've started literally all over again. I do feel like I'm at the next chapter in my life, at the halfway mark. So for me, it's like, it feels like the
beginning.
Yeah.
You're starting from zero, but on another level of zero, though.
Yeah,
Right.
I do have an advantage, and I did have an advantage when I started back then because I was coming from a corporate space, so I had money.
Yeah.
So it wasn't
Right.
Yeah.
I could afford to take an internship. Not for very long.
Yeah.
But I had an advantage. It wasn't like, I'm 35 years old and I'm going to start my career all over again.
Okay.
And listen, many years ago, I did Oprah, and I sat on the couch at Oprah, and she interviewed me, and the show was about women who love what they do for a living. And after I did that show, there were so many women who were doctors, military people, nurses, like from all walks of life, that was like, I want to be in fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Because I made it looked so accessible
Sexy.
and tangible and
Yeah.
sexy.
Yeah.
And you were like, if you had a passion for fashion and you had a creative spirit, you were like, I can do that. And, it's a process, it's a journey. And you gotta figure out you gotta have a plan. You gotta really have a plan. And it's different. There weren't a whole lot of me when I started.
Right.
But there's 1,000 more of me now. And every job that I did it knowing that there was someone else that was gonna be better. I did it knowing that my work is not done, and that this job and this project is gonna lead me to the next. How is it going to serve me? How am I so I didn't take every job. I picked and choose the things that I worked on.
Which you should.
Yeah, because the people that you're around, that matters too. That also dictates the trajectory of your future.
Right. Of what you're doing. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Your energy, your space, the people that see you, that want to lift you up and not bring you down. It wasn't about quantity, but it was about quality. So I was very curated. My camp was very tight. We didn't go outside of the camp. We moved stealth. We didn't talk. We worked. We weren't looking to be famous. We were looking to be successful. My work speaks for me. It's not about me. So if you're celebrating something, you're celebrating my work. And I recognize that. So it's not about like, June Ambrose is so successful. Okay, that's one chapter of my life, but I have more work to be done. Like you said, what are you going to, at the end of this life cycle, if I'm blessed to complete it as I'm growing young, when you look back at my contribution, what will they say?
Yeah, what did you do while you were here?
It's why as an author, it's why I wanted to make sure that I had something that was in the books. Effortless
Tangible.
Style. Yeah.
you
Simon
leave something
Schuster
behind.
published my book, and it was a milestone for me to be an author. How do you achieve iconic style with ease? Commercializing, the art form, so that so that consumer. I was speaking to the consumer always throughout my career,
Right.
always knowing that I was going to bring product to the marketplace, either bearing my name or behind the scenes and building the brand. But the Juniverse has always existed.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah.
That was a question that I have for you, right?
Welcome to the Juniverse.
The Juniverse. So I ask this question for everyone who comes on, and I call it tunnel talk. So it's like, what's the tunnel talk for yourself internally when you go from June to June, who's walking into the Juniverse?
Yeah.
Like, what's that internal conversation sound like?
That you're worthy, that you got this. And I never turn it off.
Right.
You're like, every time I see you, you're like, I'm always like, what you see is what you get.
Yeah, no, but not everybody's like that. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying, right? Like every time I see you, it's like consistent.
Yeah.
Because some people will be like, yeah, all right.
We're all
they're
gonna have
on
bad
stage.
days, but they're moments.
Right.
They're just moments. If you have to unpack trauma, you need to unpack it quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do something that may have hurt me, or I feel like, someone took advantage of me, and it was like knowing the feeling of grief and the weight that holds. Like I didn't know what it was like to be sad until my mother passed away. I had never felt that level of sadness. It was unbearable. So I knew that throughout my life I had unpacked, I had consistently unpacked any trauma. And a trauma could be as simple as a guy like hurting my feelings, or a girl doing something to backstab me, or me not getting a job, or me getting fired from something, or just anything that didn't feel conducive with the spirit in which I am.
And you feel it too. Yeah.
Feel
For
it.
sure, it's a feeling.
But you quickly are like, no, I don't like that feeling. But grief is something else. Like you almost have to ask for permission to move on from grief. And it was just so heavy. I was just like, I don't like the way this feels. And I remember the turning point, because immediately after my mom had passed away, I designed tours and I never go on the road, because the work on the road is labor.
Oh yeah, that's work.
It's work.
Yeah.
So I'm not a road girl.
Yeah.
But so my mom passed, and On the Run 2 was going out, and Jay had asked me, they didn't think I would be able to do it. B had asked me to do some things, and Jay had asked me to do it, and I agreed to do it, and my family gave me permission to be away, and it was good for me to be away from them with this grief, and that I went and spent this time with my work family, and then I had my assistants that were going to stay on the road and do the work, but I stayed, and the work that I did was a different kind of work. It was an empathic work,
right?
And it was work that it was a journey that I was on, and I was able to lend that journey that path that I was on to my client, and we got through it together. It was a tough tour for everyone. Any tour is tough,
Right.
And that was a very tough tour. But the busyness and having people that were so like empathetic and who cared for me in that way was really a blessing. And yeah, like life is just such a beautiful thing. And I remember being on that journey, and I remember, asking my mother for the permission. There were so many signs along the way. And there were so many cities that I was going to that she never got to go to. So I was traveling and leaving little things behind, pieces of her behind.
Yeah.
And I remember her giving me that permission. People were like, "Oh, you're gonna feel her spirit. Don't worry." And I was not feeling it. I was like, "This is bull."
Yeah.
I was like, "I don't feel anything. Like my mother is gone, and I don't feel anything." And I was like, "That's not cool.
That's not right. That's not right.
This ain't right." So I was like looking and I had to wait until we got to South Africa for her to finally appear. And it was across from, I never forget this, because we was at this archivalist museum spot, and across from the museum there was the Cradle of Mankind. It's where the first life was found in Johannesburg.
Right.
And this big gush of wind, I was standing on a landing. For some reason, I was like, I needed to be away from everybody. And I stepped outside onto the platform in the landing, in the loading dock area. And this big gush of wind came, and the trees moved, and it was a very still day, a warm, still day. I have goosebumps talking about it. And there she came, her spirit.
Interesting.
And that was the first time I felt connected to my mother in the afterlife.
Wow.
It brings me to tears. But so then I knew that it was okay to fully smile and be happy
all
again.
the time. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Yes, it's beautiful.
And
I've been on the
dancing,
verge of
dancing
tears
is
this
very
whole interview.
Yeah, dancing is a very spiritual thing too. There's a freedom in movement. So you see me on the road, I'm always dancing. I was just dancing. Every city I went into, I kept dancing. Everybody's like, I'm dancing. Listen, just dancing. June's like, she's so, because even though I was grieving, I didn't want to be around people in that grief, in that way. So I was having like grief attacks. I would just start like, I would be laughing and then crying. And like, you know, and people would just have to hold me. And I didn't know, it was just coming out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then I would start laughing. Because I was fighting between, is it okay to be joyful? And like,
can I be happy right now?
Yeah. And it felt like I needed permission. And my mom was like, I gave you permission. That's why you're on the road. That's why you're traveling. Because before she passed, she was like, go and work.
Yeah, it's like, honor me, do your thing.
Yeah, because this is what she worked for. She would always say,
now it's your turn.
She would always say, are you working? Because when you have your own business, if you ain't working, you got problems.
Yeah, what are you doing?
So she would always be like, do you have a job? And then when I wouldn't work, she'd be like, June's unemployed. Because like, so I needed to have a client. I needed to have work.
You don't need that pressure.
Yes. So I was doing exactly what she wanted. I just needed her to
And that's what she wanted you to do, right?
So
that was the energy, for sure.
It was a good full circle. I still miss her every day. But I honor her by, working hard and being successful, being a great mom as best as I can. She left me with many, many beautiful examples of how to be, relentless. I never complain about hard work. I love to work. Mm-hmm. I love it.
That's amazing. That's the Caribbean side, right?
It totally is.
And the dancing.
We're all entrepreneurs. And the dancing. I was like, but the freedom of it. I remember Beyonce had told me, she was like, this is, when I watch you dance, I could see the freedom. That's what movement is.
Yeah.
When white people tell you, oh, I can't dance. Yes, you can. Just move.
Just do it.
Get out of your head. Dancing is not about necessarily that rhythm of like the beat you're hearing in the music. It's what you feel inside. I could dance without music. It's how you feel it, how you see it.
I saw a photo shoot I think you did with Diddy when you were dancing for his Met. Yeah.
That was the warm up.
Yeah.
That's how we get ready. Like feel that energy. And every artist that I've ever worked with, that's how we got through. Every late night, every director that I worked with, they weren't paying for necessarily the art. They were paying for the joy. If I could bottle the June joy, I'd be a billionaire.
I'm telling you.
I'm working on that. How do you bottle this joy? Yeah.
So just to round us out, because I'm telling you, I said this earlier, but I feel like I've been on the verge of tears because of how honored I am to be in front of you and have watched you for a very long time. Our daughters are similar in age, and so, it's just an honor to be in front of you. But one of the things that we do for the listeners is if there are any gems that you could drop for young creatives, young, entrepreneurs, young, soon to be like our leaders within our industry, what would those gems be?
There is absolutely nothing in your path big enough to stop you. There's nothing. You create your own space. You give yourself grace through the journey. Prepare to put the work in. It may not work out the way you saw it in your head, but leave room for, life to alter, what your aspirations are. But you have so many more resources than I did coming up. So much more access. And when you think, we think access is like, oh, you don't have the funding or, you don't have a seat at the table, you're not in the C-suite. But we have the ability through AI, our authentic intelligence.
Yes, love that.
Because we don't need artificial intelligence. We need authentic intelligence to really, what we manifest. And the words you speak are very powerful. You have to speak what you want into existence. You have to almost like see it in front of you. And, there will be days that you feel like, you can blame someone else. Take responsibility at all times. Mm-hmm. Take responsibility. Even if it's not your fault. You know what I mean? Because you taking responsibility gives you power to change what happens after that.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Change
big.
the narrative.
Yeah. Because as soon as you start, it's because I'm black, I didn't get this. Because I didn't have no money.
Yeah, it's an excuse.
It's an excuse. Mm-hmm. Don't make excuses. Prepare to do the work and find your way through it. Even with the tightest, the tightest boulder, can you go over it? Can you see on the side of it?
Mm-hmm. Is there a line of sight you can see something?
Figure it out.
Yeah.
But don't give up. And there will be days where you feel like you can't. But you really have so much access, to get it done. And also speak to people and hold people accountable.
Yes.
I ask people to hold me accountable and keep me honest all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when you start to curate who's in your life, think about how you're going to work together to build something,
Mm-hmm.
or ask somebody to connect you to somebody who can help you. If you can't help me, who can?
Yes.
So many times I tell people, I'm not the one for that. Let me connect you to this person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, for sure.
This is priceless. And I'm like, there's never a time that someone doesn't stop me to ask me for the simplest things that I don't take 5 seconds. I'm always, even if I'm in a rush, I'm like, I always tell my team, like, it's only gonna take 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
This is tides.
Mm-hmm.
So give your tides so that you have to give so you can receive.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's a process of giving and receiving.
Yeah.
You said something earlier about keeping your team small and tight.
Mm-hmm.
How do you keep them energized, though, while you guys are moving in stealth mode?
Yeah.
Because it's super important.
Yeah.
Like, as we're doing this crazy build out of pencil,
Yeah.
sometimes it's a challenge, right, to keep everyone
Yeah.
locked in.
But you have to keep them accountable, right? So like I use keywords, like I don't throw shoes. I don't, raise my voice.
Mm-hmm.
I express disappointment. I give you things that you are responsible for, and then I hold you accountable for them. This is how you bring someone up. This is how you raise someone. And we all love responsibility. Think about, like when you have like an apprentice or you have an intern, you give them something more than just get me some coffee, and you say, you're going to be in charge of this. I'm really counting on you because I need you to be smarter than me and better than me because I know you are and I know you can. And when you think about the feeling of that, even as a child, when your parents gave you permission to go out on your own and go to the store for the first time, I gave you an opportunity to be responsible. Now, if you mess up,
Mm-hmm.
That's a different story.
I'm going to express how disappointed I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I guarantee you're going to feel that. Because now I'm going to take away that responsibility. And that's going to hurt a lot more than me saying, you ain't shit, da-da-da, like, than me just screaming at you and telling you how messed up and effed up you are.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in using words to weaponize. And, I'm always careful with my words, especially with my kids. Like, you can't tell a kid you're bad, you're so bad.
Yeah.
These words are designed to hold you back. The definitions, like weaponizing our blackness, the definitions of what it is to be black versus white. We got to redefine all these words to make them work for our advantage. Because society has tried to redefine them, like urban, culture. They're designed to separate us.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So your team should feel like communicate with each other. And I'm always telling everybody, communicate, right?
It's a big word.
Lean on each other, speak to everybody. Everybody should know what everybody's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Even at the C-suite, keep everybody informed.
Absolutely.
So that when someone's missing, I got your back, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's nothing that you're doing for me that I can't do for myself. I'm always going to do everybody's job.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to,
Mm-hmm.
but I remind you that I can.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that, June's going to do every job, she's going to clean up, she's going to do this. Sometimes you have to sit down, what are you doing? Because I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you ain't going to hold me back.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You ain't going to try to, I've been in a position where people were working for me and they felt like they were, that they were me or they were, and they're like, oh, no. They're like, we're the company, we made you, you need us, and we're going to do a walkout. You go ahead and walk out. I'm going to rebuild this so quick and so fast, and it's going to start with me. So everyone should feel like a CEO. Everyone should have that feeling.
I love that.
That's how you keep your team tight.
Yeah, I love that.
Well, we really appreciate your time here today.
I could talk to you guys forever.
I'm telling you, I have so many more questions, but I know we're on time. Do you have any final questions, D?
No, not right now. I feel like every time I
Shocking.
see you, I know, right? Not for the podcast.
I know, right? Can I get 5 minutes?
Consistent, man. That's all I can say. Like, I appreciate that you're always the same. We have the same energies. And you remember our conversations, even when I don't.
Yeah.
So, you remember the twins? I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, of course.
But thank you for coming through.
Thank you.
I might have one more. because she's so fashionable, right? How do you really determine, and I'm sorry because this is totally off cadence, and I know we're closing out the show, but how do you determine when someone just wears clothes and then has style?
It's a good closeout. Because I think, fashion is mute without style. If you can, like, swag has equity in swag. Like, it's like where your currency is, in a sense, right? It's like what people really want to buy right now.
Yeah.
It's like, how do I, like, get that? But they think it's in, like, the label. They think, it's a language. It's a way you articulate and convey. It's how you storytell. And, anybody can buy fashion. No matter if it's
clothes.
vintage or
Yeah.
anybody can buy clothes.
Yeah.
It's how you interpret that. It's how you find your voice in it. It's how I get to see, like, how do I see you? Like, you look at someone and you're like, oh, this person, this person just put all that on. They didn't even think about it.
Right.
But when someone, like, possesses, like, a flair and an energy, and they don't even have to open their mouths, and they can talk, and they walk into a room, and you see all the seasoning, and it could be quiet luxury, but it's that energy, that style.
I love it.
That's a perfect closeout question.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm telling you, I've said it enough, but it has been an honor, a true honor, to have you on the Blacklights podcast. And we appreciate all the gems that you dropped. And we're hoping that you all are taking this in, because Miss June Ambrose definitely lit the path forward. Thank you.